As the RLCS 2025 season comes to the finish line, we only have one question. How the fuck is this esports still alive? I could have sworn it was left to... You know what? No matter. It'll be dead soon enough. Let's take a look at the contenders for what's probably the final World Championship. Make no mistake, this was the expected result. Though I'm sure they would have liked to get paid for their work this season, MIBR took care of business against a couple of weaker contenders after struggling to claim the SAM 3 spot that they really should have wrapped up months ago. To their credit, they finally ended the curse of complexity players moving back to South America, but Brad did most of the heavy lifting during the LCQ. Their floor is probably good enough to make it at least the qualification match, but how high is their upside? High enough to beat Shopify? Maybe? This season's looked like the least depth your region's had in a while. Don't prove everyone right. Everyone, come quick! Shopify Rebellion is not fucked! Took them long enough, honestly. The good news for Rebellion is that they're coming into LAN without many expectations. The bad news for Rebellion is that there's a reason for not having many expectations. They just don't have the talent to make it that far. Wavy and 2Piece both being LAN rookies compounds their shakiness as a roster. Even if Reddles is able to cause the disruption they need to pull off an upset, 2Piece needs to be online for them to have a chance. They've been gifted a friendly bracket in the play-in, but their likely reward for making it through? Falcons. Have fun. Redosin was the key to their success? Really? Well, in any case, Ninjas are probably the only play-in team with a shot to do anything relevant in this tournament. Oski is a known commodity, and Radwa's form seems to be good enough for them to push for top 8. The X factor, of course, is Nas. How good is he really? Everyone seems to agree that he's a top talent, but he's seriously struggled to do more than stat pad up until the LCQ. He'll be needed for NAP to make a run. We've seen how good this team can be. We've also seen them collapse repeatedly. Which version of the Ninjas are we getting this time? Behold, the fruits of Saudi oil money, a third team with a pulse. To be fair, when RLC are playing well, they look like serious contenders. They're the only MENA team to beat Twisted or Falcons in bracket this season after all, and they dropped a total of 3 games on the road to a dominant LCQ victory. Abdullah has finally taken that next step, and Ghazi's been a serious breakout star. This is where the glazing ends. The problem for ROC, like every other LCQ team, has been their consistency. That win over Twisted in Open number 5, the one where they became the only other team to make a grand finals in the region this season, it came sandwiched between 2 group stage exits. Twiz was the only player on this team with any sort of LAN experience, and it was a flat performance in the 2022 Worlds wildcard. At least they can say they're better than Sam now? Exhibit A for why the RLCS is fucked comes in the form of 3 Spaniards who sleptwalked through an SSA region which saw every single event have more European imports than native South African players. They're pretty clearly more competitive than Limitless ever was, but I'm starting to think that a real SSA team might never represent their region again. Foot have been decent on LAN this season, but they have a massive problem with choking that they just barely overcame at EWC. ROC into Mibber or Gen G is not a friendly bracket by any means, and they'll be up against it from the start. Here's hoping for their quick demise. Honestly, this is probably it for Oceania. TSM looked alright in Raleigh for their standards, but OCE has fallen firmly behind APAC with no sign of that trend reversing anytime soon. If the RLCS continues downsizing, OCT will be one of the first spots to go. Super Lucky is still good, but this region's time in the sun ended years ago, and they'll be underdogs in every single series they play. Honestly, I'm rooting for them. That's probably more support than their first man gets most of the time. This team got a lot of hype after Birmingham, and to be fair, they did get to 2 and 3. Unfortunately for them though, there are only 2 OC teams to beat per LAN, and they only got to play one of them in Raleigh. Then they lost a foot. The good news is that their bracket for the play-in is a mediocre Shopify Rebellion squad with the potential of playing another OCE team in lower so they drop the Shopify series. Still, the downward trend hasn't inspired that much confidence, and for a team that seemed hell-bent on putting APAC back on the map in March, they've been very quiet since then. If you want to pretend to be relevant, now is the time. Everyone, behold! Justin is back at the World Championship. What an amazing sight. Please ignore that they duplicated their Birmingham performance and couldn't even beat Team Secret for a top 8 in Riyadh, and that Magic Bear is their best player. Like the past 2 Gen G rosters, this one is similarly disappointing on LAN. If they don't choke against Mibber and ROC, then they probably get the best bracket they could hope for, but we all know what we're going to get anyways. Way too much hype before the tournament, 1 peak game from each of their players, and a 9th place finish. Welcome back to the show, Justin. Don't let the door hit you on your way out. Honestly, once Torsas's 2 and 3 streak came to an end at the hands of virtus.pro, I think we all knew that this team was cooked. Their Raleigh performance was so pathetic that them going out dead last at EWC was considered progress because they took 2 games off of Team fucking Secret. The only reason they're not going to get eliminated in the play-in is because Blast doesn't know how to seed a fucking tournament. I don't care how many regionals you win, this team needs to disband the moment the season's over. You're on reward for being the OCE 1 seed, enjoy your ritual ass-whooping at the hands of Furia. Turns out that KV1 did have a bit of gas left in the tank after all. Honestly, good for them. I guess all it took was lost internet disconnecting and breaking Furia's win streak over them to turn things around. After their terrible Birmingham, it's definitely a welcome surprise, and the Swift industry plant allegations were getting pretty tired anyways. Secret aren't nearly as talented as most of the other squads in the tournament, but they can probably aura blast their team or two before bowing out with a respectable top 12 or maybe even a top 8 if they have another legacy performance. Just don't park the bus again. With who they're playing in the first round, it definitely won't work. I've had to rewrite this part twice. I was angry after Raleigh. I was furious after the shit they pulled versus Vitality, but they at least pulled themselves together and took an impressive win over Twisted Minds on their way out at EWC. It's pretty clear that this team wasn't ready for the big time at the start, but they seem to have settled in a little bit after a near disaster in Riyadh. I can't make heads or tails of their playstyle, and Xperia seems to be struggling to control the locker room, but their upside remains insanely high if everything clicks. The problem is that we're starting to run out of ifs. They get to try for redemption against Vitality in round 1, too. If there ever was a time to prove that there's any hope for North America, this is it. Just don't start throwing a tantrum on stage again when they kick your ass. Is LJ ever going to win an event? His team's got 4 second place results this season, and it doesn't really seem to matter who they play in the grand finals. At least they finally got it together and decided to stop getting second, by getting 9th. Twice. How the fuck do you manage to throw that badly in Raleigh? You beat Carmine for fuck's sake. Look, I'm willing to excuse EWC because they got thrown in the group of death. And they're clearly talented enough to make a deep run, Birmingham showed us as much, but they've got to show that they're done collapsing. Sad Jr. is the guy you want for that at least. Don't fuck it up. I've got nothing. How the fuck do you figure out how good they actually are? For 6 events this season, they've played at a reasonable level, about top 4 to top 6 EU, but they've captured lightning in a bottle twice now with a random bullshit EWC top 2 complementing their unthinkable major qualifying sweep through EU in open number 3. Seriously, show me this shit ever happening to an NA team on LAN. This team is literally just aura farming, and it's clear that RG truly does not give a shit if they win or not. I have literally no idea where they're going to end up. It's just as likely that they breeze through Carmine in round 2 as it is for them to go out dead last at gen.g. Whatever, man. They're clearly good enough to win. They have all the talent they could ask for, they have the ability to strike fear to their opponents, they have World Championship Monkey Moon for fuck's sake. What they don't have, however, is a truly great result this season. No regional wins, no LAN Grand Finals, no clutch in bracket. It just feels like an extremely shitty setup to another bullshit Worlds win for the squad. At the very least, Monkey Moon teams tend to come out swinging at Worlds. If they don't, then you can sound the alarm bells. Otherwise, they're probably going to be right in the thick of it on Sunday after their ceremonial win over NRG. They just have to avoid their kryptonite. Dignitas? Really? I'm lower on Nalpo than most, but even I can see a little hope he has in this team most of the time. Rise is more focused on talking shit than hitting the goddamn ball, and Atomic goes invisible for series at a time. Their peak is very high, their floor is extremely low. Nothing they do in one series will say anything about how they'll do in the next. They're in that weird range where they're almost definitely not going to win, but they'll almost definitely give a contending team a scare or just straight up upset them. Getting the Quadrant of Death, NRG, Secret, and probably NIP isn't much better for them. If they don't come out of the gates hot, it's lights out. Who's not going to team with then? What the fuck is this team doing? At least last season they didn't hard throw before playoffs. Now they're getting outplaced by little brother Team Secret in back-to-back lands. They have talent, but I'm honestly starting to doubt that they're good enough to get them anywhere near the title this time around. They have a very friendly bracket too, but the struggles are getting too big to ignore. You know, MENA did just win their first LAN. Sam is starting to get pushed back into the shadows. You have to right the ship. Taking one fucking game at EWC isn't anywhere near good enough, and if you play like that again, Swift, you are a Furia Panther. Who saw this coming? I certainly didn't. Taking apparently Jack and throwing them together with 2 players who couldn't make LAN in North America gives you one of the best teams in the world, I guess. Multiple wins over Carmine and Vitality over the course of the season is seriously impressive, and as long as they avoid Falcons, they should be in for another deep run. Here's the thing though, they just don't have the vibes of a championship winning team. Can you seriously see them lifting the trophy? Until they change the narrative, they're primed for an upset loss. They're gonna be storyline fodder for NRG, aren't they? You had your chance, boys. Atomic fell flat in his face in Fort Worth, and you don't exactly get opportunities at a championship like that again for free. Over the course of the season, NRG has had to do some soul searching. It turns out that you do need a second man if Beast Mode isn't playing like literal Jesus fucking Christ. It took them until Riyadh to figure that out, and there they ran into their next problem. They can't fucking beat Vitality. And guess who they're projected to play in the quarterfinals? You're gonna have to overcome your demons one way or another. If you want to make EU eat a metric ton of shit, this is the time. They do match up well against the other titans of the game. Time to prove that you got it. Or pick up first killer in the offseason. Well, they finally did it, in an incredibly dominant fashion too, even if they got to farm Dignitas in 3 separate series. The only real mark against Falcons is that they couldn't follow up at EWC, but even then they were still excellent. This is no doubt one of the 2 best teams in the world, and they'll be hungry to get back to Carmine after losing in front of their home crowd. The Vitality match is a trap game, but if they can get around it, we'll be seeing them playing for the title for sure. One thing still bugs me though, they've already got their win. Does it really seem like they're the team of destiny this time around? Yeah, they're losing to NRG. Carmine Corp has assembled a Death Star. An immaculate first split, a nightmarish playstyle, and the second half collapse that slowed them down last season, nowhere to be found. Okay, granted they did have a bad Raleigh, but winning EWC showed us that they still mean business, and it's going to be a hell of a task for anyone to take them down. They've been the team to beat all season long, and there's only a handful of others that can say they've given them a fight. If it comes down to Monkey Moon trying to claim his 3rd World Championship, KC are the ones that are most likely to flip the script. And the only thing that can stop them is themselves. And maybe GK, and Dignitas, and Twisted Minds, and Ultimates? Just don't get ahead of yourselves. Vatira's gonna get one eventually, right? Even compared to last season, the RLCS has gotten so much more top-heavy, and there really are only a handful of teams with a decent shot to claim the title this time around. Birmingham showed us dominance. Raleigh showed us chaos. What will we be in for in Lyon? This is a tough one. To me, it's down to Vitality, Carmine, NRG, and Falcons for who's going to make the grand finals. I'm going to trust my gut and go with Carmine versus NRG. EU versus NA. France versus not France. One last chance for North America to prove that they belong, which they will inevitably choke as Carmine wins 4-1. This esport is fucked.
I don't care if they care. That's not what I'm asking you, Stumpy.
Right.
Yeah, I think we're all, you know,
we're all game
settling down here. I think
11.
Let's keep going.